My name is Karen Howington, and welcome to my channel. This is my first video, and basically, I am a writer. I call myself Southern Belle writer Karen Howington because I moved to Wyoming a few years ago to live for 3.5 glorious years, and I noticed a lot of funny things about living in the wild, wild west as opposed to living in the South. So my memoir for that I started writing is called Southern Belle and the Wild, Wild West, a redneck's look at living in Wyoming. I am from Louisiana. I am a pharmacist, and I have lots of writings, and I'm going to be reading on here. When I told my daughter that I was going to do a YouTube channel, she said that, Mom, people have really sophisticated editing techniques with their videos and all kinds of stuff. I just don't know if anybody's going to watch a video where you just read. Well, here I am, and I'm just going to read and talk about things because I have a lot to say. So here is the first post from my blog. It's southernbellekaren.blogspot.com, and it's called My Blue Flame. I guess you could say that I was born to be a writer. In elementary school, my mom thought I plagiarized manuscripts that I wrote for school assignments. She just didn't think that someone of my tender age could compose with the talent I was demonstrating. I won various awards throughout my school years for my compositions. Most good authors began their journey as voracious readers, and I was no exception. Whenever I was told to put away whatever book I was currently absorbed in at the breakfast table, I would reluctantly comply and turn to whatever cereal box was nearby. It wasn't nearly as interesting, but I did learn a lot of useless trivia, like the ingredients of Captain Crunch, that all Kellogg brands were made in Battle Creek, Michigan, what daily percent of vitamin A I was consuming per bowl, and the list could go on. If I ever find myself in a game of cereal box trivia, I would no doubt beat every player. Before my kids could even sit up, I was making bi-weekly excursions to the public library to sit on the floor in the children's section and peruse the stacks for age-appropriate books. I continued with this much-loved errand until the kids were old enough to choose what interests them. We usually left with 20 to 30 books and had all of them read in a week or so. What I had hoped for my children has come to pass as reality in their adult lives. Both love to read. So what is a blue flame, you ask? The other day, my sister, who is also a heavy reader, recommended a New York Times best-selling book called Your Blue Flame by Jennifer Fulwiler. She suggested it after I broke out some old stories that I had written 10 years ago on a platform called Yahoo 360. Basically, it was a precursor to Facebook. I started recording myself reading them on the microphone feature of texting, and here were some of her comments. Please write. You have a gift. This is wonderful. Please begin to look for a publisher. I see vivid pictures of your stories. Your writing is gifted and poignant. You write in the style of Tara Westover, the New York Times bestselling author of the book Educated, which is the best thing anybody has ever said about my writings. Oh my goodness, what a visual treat. Such great visual images, absolutely perfect. I'm crying and laughing and happy all at the same time. Love all this. Please start looking for an editor. It is real, refreshing, delightful. I was humbled by all the praise. A more descriptive statement would be that it blew my mind. I guess you could call these the first critical reviews I have ever received outside of my teachers in school. So back to the blue flame. In her book, Jennifer says this: it is something you do and were destined to do that fills you with energy and adds love to the world. It is a specific creation you're meant to add to the world. Well, part of the love I want to add to the world is a love of my writings. Another passage says, as a Christian, I believe that God is the source of all love, and so I like to think your blue flame is your unique way of sharing a little bit of God with the world. Her book also tells about Oprah Winfrey saying this about her first interview as a co-host on a talk show in her book, The Path Made Clear. I felt lit up from the inside, like I had come home to myself. When the hour ended, there was a sense of knowing resonating within my heart and radiating to the hairs on the back of my neck. My entire body told me this was what I was supposed to do. I feel I am obligated to share my experience, strength, and hope that recovery from drug addiction is possible and hopefully entertain you in the process. When I was reading these things to my sister that I hadn't read in years, I felt those neck hairs standing at attention. I wanted to land a book deal, then have my memoir published, become a freelance writer, and go on a book tour. I want to earn enough money to leave the profession of pharmacy and retire early. Are these lofty aspirations? Perhaps. But the Bible does say in Zechariah 4:10, do not despise the day of small beginnings. I have been published once in a small Wyoming online magazine. I think that qualifies as little. You see, God has been nudging my spirit in various ways, one of which happened every time I had a new view of my Facebook writer page, Southern Belle writer Karen Howington. That's Howington. This particular thing has been going on ever since I began that page. Then, in the last 2 weeks, I have heard as many sermons that may as well have been meant for an audience of one, me. God said to my spirit, are you waiting on 4 angelic hosts and 5 prophets to appear, or are you going to listen to me? So here I am, rekindling my blue flame, my love of writing. Won't you follow along as I tell my story, which involves happiness, despair, hopelessness, revival, and redemption as a mother, wife, pharmacist, Christ follower, sister, daughter, and former prescription drug addict? Ah, you didn't see that one coming, did you? I think you won't regret it. So that is my first blog post, and as it said, I've been a pharmacist for 30 years, and I was a prescription drug addict. The drugs of choice were behind the counter, and I lost my pharmacy license twice. But like God is a God of restoration, and my testimony is of restoration, so I got my license back twice and am now working at a job I absolutely love. It's in long-term care pharmacy. It's the kind of pharmacy where you fill prescriptions for nursing homes, group homes, and assisted living. Pardon me, let me go let my dog inside as she is scratching, and she's not going to be quiet until I do. Peanut, can you say hi? Look, Peanut, can you say hi? This is Peanut the pal, and she is the best dog ever. You want to sniff it? Okay, so she's not interested in you. She's just interested in me. So, another blog post that I have on here, I would like to share with you. Let's see. It's called The Toad Prisoner. I really love amphibians. They don't exactly like me, though, but I work around that. My best childhood friend Rachel and I love to hunt and then catch and release common green lizards. We would circle houses in the neighborhood looking for these wonderful creatures. To this day, I still try and catch any small lizards. Once I caught a toad for my kids. That rascal did what all captured toads do. It peed on my hand. This did not deter my mission at all. I grew up a tomboy, after all. I was also tasked with the annual defrogging of the large and deep pool that we had every spring. Big bullfrogs would gather to mate in our pool with their deep-throated calls. My kids would refuse to swim in there until I dove to the bottom and removed them. And I couldn't just release them in the front yard because they would find their way back. Peanut, hush. So I had to haul them down to the street to a pond. Once, a white crane flew in the pool and couldn't fly out because its wing appeared damaged. As I neared the pool, it got out and walked to the chain-link fence. So I gently put my hand around his long neck and picked him up. He smelled like a wet dog, so I put him in a dog kennel and took him down to the same pond. Back to the toad. I placed him in a Tupperware bowl with grass and a bit of water in the bottom. I kept him as a pet for the kids. Then, alas, the sad day came for his release. I opened the container and laid it on its side for the toad to leave at his leisure. The next day, I picked up the container and the toad was still in there. I removed the grass and let him go. That was the end of that, or so I thought. A couple of days later, God nudged my heart and gave this message to me. The toad was free for an entire day before he knew it. Sometimes it is like that for us. God frees us from bondages, but sometimes we sit in the container and are unaware that we indeed are free. We have stuff in our way that prevents us from seeing that our jail door is open. Do you have some grass in your container of bondage when He has set you free? I urge you to examine your life and see the freedom that is waiting beyond the grass, if you will but look. I just love it when God gives me that sort of lesson. Then I can share it with others and encourage them. So go on, get hopping and remove the grass. Your life is waiting on the other side. So, I guess more about me. I'm married to a wonderful man. I've been married to him for 30 years, and he has stuck by me through the many years of drug addiction and insanity, which is defined as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that indeed defined my more than 30-year addiction to mind-altering substances. I kept doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I'm finally sober. My sobriety date is, 4/1/04. And it's been a journey, to say the least. But all the things that I have mostly brought on myself and came out of, I can say that honestly, nothing, and I mean nothing, can happen to me that I don't believe God will take me out of, because He has rescued me every single time. So in my 53 summers here on earth, I have accumulated a lot of different manuscripts and writings, and I am right now composing my memoir, and I believe I might call it Pharmacist, Christian, Addict. A memoir of drugs, I can't remember the second word, and then redemption. So I had started writing that back when I lived in Wyoming, and my goodness, how awesome it was to live in Wyoming. I had a favorite place that I sat by in Sinks Canyon, which is in Lander, Wyoming. My husband and I lived in Riverton, Wyoming, and it had a population of 10,000 people, and when I moved in with my dog before my husband came, it was 10,002. So my favorite place to write was in Sinks Canyon by a cool mountain stream, and it was just magical. And I would sit, I brought my lawn chair. Yes, I am from the South, and yes, we are rednecks. So I brought my lawn chair, if you will, and sat by the stream and would write and read. Many, many happy hours were spent in that canyon year-round. I mean, it was, all the seasons were beautiful there. I would hike in the summertime when it smells so fragrant. Oh, the flowers that were blooming, the birch trees. It was just absolutely stunning. And then in the wintertime, I would hike in the snow. And one really, really favorite place of mine was a hike that I believe was 700 feet increase in elevation from the bottom of Sinks Canyon, and it went up, I think it was 1.5 miles. So whenever I first moved there, I really was having a hard time with the high altitude coming from the great state of Louisiana, where we are at or below sea level, it seems like. So I had heard about this hike up to what is called the Papage Middle Waterfalls. And that Papage looks like you would pronounce it Popo Aggie. At least that's how you would pronounce it in the South. But no, it's Papage. So the first time I attempted to, well, I didn't attempt, I did it. The first time I climbed it, I brought my little Peanut Pal with me, who's the best hiking dog ever. And I started up, and it was definitely hard. You know, I had to stop a few times and rest But along the way, you meet a lot of interesting people that are coming down and then who pass you if you're one of the slower ones. Well, there was a couple that I met on the trail, and she had just had hip replacement surgery 6 weeks ago. And she was older than me. I think her and her husband were probably in their 60s. And they were getting along really good. So I'm like, I am not going to let a 60-something-year-old who just had surgery make it up to the top and me not. So that actually encouraged me to continue on, and I made it up to the falls. I will post videos and different things like that of the beauty that I found up there at the falls. So one time when I had really, gotten used to hiking at the altitude and gotten really in shape, me being a former drug addict, we tend to be addicted to adrenaline, and I am no exception. There was a hike one time that I wanted to go above those Papage Falls, and it's like a 21-mile, if I remember correctly, a trail up through the mountains. And of course, there was no way I was going to attempt that, but I was alone, and like I said, as an adrenaline junkie, there was moose poop, fresh moose poop. It was just before the bears went to hibernate, so I truly had no idea what was around each rock that I came to, each turn, and it was exhilarating. I never felt more alive in my entire life, it seemed, and it was fantastic. So I went ahead and hiked up another mile and just stood on a table rock above and just looked down. It was, the hike was so worth it. I only went an extra mile up because I just figured I needed to not go any further. So I had lots of adventures in Wyoming, and I have written about many, many of them. I may combine a book with my Wyoming writings and my other just general manuscripts about random things, or I may write a book about my times in Wyoming only. But nevertheless, I'm excited about this. God has told me it's time to start writing, so I have to promote my brand, which is Southern Belle writer Karen Howington. And I'm thankful that there's social media now that I can use to promote myself, because nobody's going to do it for me. I mean, I believe God's going to bless my efforts and open the right doors for me, but I have to be the one to put myself out there, and hopefully you will enjoy my writings as much as I have enjoyed writing them. I'll tell you more about myself in a next video, but I just wanted to welcome you again to my channel. And I guess that's it. That's the first video. So hope you subscribe, but I'm not going to be one of those people that says, oh, push that button and subscribe. Not that I don't think that's a good idea, but I'm just, you know how to subscribe. If you want to, you can. If you don't, well, then just don't. So from this Southern Belle to wherever you are, welcome and have a good day.